Hello, humans. It's time to have a little bit of an experiment here. I'm going to go through a couple of ways you can animate objects without a skeleton, which is to say that we're going to go through vertex animation now. Now, by vertex animation, what I mean is if we go ahead and let me just show you here my object here. I've basically created this simple arrow. I could go ahead and grab a particular vertex and I could set some keyframes on it, move it up and down, and this will create the motion. I've already told you that you can set keyframes on basically anything in Maya, allowing you almost an infinite amount of possibilities and tools to animate whatever it is that you have on your screen. However, in this situation, we want to transform this arrow into this object right here. I've created this from basically by revolving a curve. I basically made a curve on one side and I revolved it, and this is the result. Notice the difference in verts here. Okay, this has 332 verts, this has 127 verts. So this is much lower resolution than this object right here. So the idea is, what I want to make my object do is go upwards, transform itself into this into an exclamation mark, because we will add a sphere over here, and then go back down and squash. So it's a very simple animation, but we do have one little problem. Let's pop off the blend shape here. Oh, my bad. Let's pop off the actual deform menu here, and we're gonna be using the blend shape deformer to achieve our desired result. There's one little deal breaker with the blend shape, and that is the fact that you need to have the exact same amounts of vertices. Even one, like I've had bad results even if I had one less vertex. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have finalized your target topology, unless you want to be retargeting blends or morph targets or whatever it's called. Like, essentially, imagine if you hear a blend shape or a morph target, it's exactly the same thing. It basically means that whatever you have is going to transform into something else that you have. Now, blend shapes works very simple. You essentially create a duplicate of your object, a duplicate meaning that it'll have the exact same topology. You modify its topology without removing or adding vertices or edges, and then you say, okay, this is the result, and I want my main object to turn into this object, via a slider, kind of like having a driven key. Problem right now is that we obviously have way too many faces here, way too few faces here. There's a little bit of a difference in size, so actually I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. 0.8 seems fine. 0.8 seems fine, I said. Right, this should look sort of okay. And let's take a look at our object. So in order to achieve this situation here, what we want to do is we want to somehow, and hopefully not manually, transform this arrow into this exclamation mark, or alternatively, transform this exclamation mark with the exact same polygon count into an arrow, and somehow also have our topology created. Now I'm going to shortcut this, and this is not an advisable thing to do. You don't want to be doing this, but I want to show you the quick and dirty way of getting a shape that you just came out of your head and you're like, oh shit, now I got to somehow do this in order to blend between these two shapes. There's obviously other tricks, I suppose, but this is the only one that I think is, this is the most basic one. So what we're going to do, we're going to shrink wrap this. Now, what does shrink wrap mean? By the way, you could also lattice. If you're good with the lattices, you could perhaps somehow create a lattice, but topology is very hard to maintain at that stage. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select my main object, and I'm going to select my target object, and I'm going to say, let's shrink wrap this bastard. Boom, shrink wrapped. So what's going to happen now? If I move this up, it will stick to the surfaces, to the sides. It will try to conform to this object. But at the end of the day, this is definitely not a good fit, because we have a difference in in faces. One more thing to note, it is possible, let me just remove the shrink wrap. It is entirely possible to go ahead and uncheck the box over here. Sorry, my bad. When you want to be blend shaping, it is entirely possible to uncheck the topology. Because right now, like if I press the check the topology thing, which you should be doing, it will not let me create a deformer because I simply don't have the same topology. But if I ignore that, and if I say, okay, I'm going to select my, the target object, and then I'm going to select my object that's going to get transformed, and I'm going to remove this, and I click create, now I'm going to have a blend shape. And you might say, well, gee, this still worked. Well, let's see how it worked then, shall we? Oh, brilliant. This is our result, ladies and gentlemen. This is what you're going to get. This does not look good in any situation. You can play around with your envelope and be like, yeah, I'm going to play my envelope here and just sort of get this. But in no situation, never are you going to get a good enough deformation. Okay, you could go into your attribute editor, go into your blend shape over here, and try something fancy. Like, I don't know, maybe there's really nothing much to try here, to be honest. So this is not really gonna help us out. So I'm gonna go ahead and show them both of these, and I'm gonna basically delete their history, and we're gonna try to shrink wrap this. Before we do that, though, we need to make sure that we got our hierarchy in check, because once I start duplicating, things are gonna get really complicated really fast. So we currently have a P cube and a P surface. I'm gonna call this exclamation target. Actually, wrap target. And I'm going to call this my arrow. Alright. Now this arrow needs to be subdivided, alright? This arrow needs to be absolutely subdivided in order to match my vertex count. In this situation, even if I do subdivide it, it probably won't have enough subdivisions. So I may have to do it 3 times. So let's go ahead and subdivide this. In other words, smooth it. And let's say I'm going to use 2. And let's see what happens. I'm going to smooth this. Okay, it somehow has 2,000 vertices, so this should definitely be much easier on the eyes. We do have some problems here with our edges. Perhaps we should go ahead here and propagate some of these hard edges and preserve them. Yeah, this looks a little bit better. If I don't propagate them, it's not really a big issue. I do have a bunch of creases, but then I didn't really define that many. Oh, I don't know. Let's keep it like that. Let's just keep it like that. Forget the preserve hard edges for a second. Obviously, do whatever you want. It's your model. You want to do it sharper, you do it sharper. All right. So now that I have it deformed here, my next item on the agenda is to wrap this around my exclamation mark. So what I'm going to do is select my exclamation mark, select my wrapper, and then select the target, which I'm going to wrap around. I'm going to press shrink wrap. Okay, let's grab this and see what happens. What's going on now? We've got more vertices, remember, than before, so the shrink wrap should look a little bit better. Still looks sort of okay, but we do have some issues with our width. As you can see here, our arrow is not wide enough for us to actually fit the damn thing. So it's time to increase the width so that it fits. Now it's a little bit too wide. So you play around with these settings here with this value, and you will notice that it's just currently we have way too many vertices for our object to wrap around. And I'm going to remove the morph here so that we can see exactly what the story is. Notice that the width is not the same. It's just not getting a good fit. What I'm going to do now is definitely not a good idea in general, because the results are so wildly different depending on the object that you might as well just use it as a lottery ticket and gamble. But that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to say that if I don't have a corresponding vertex that intersects here, because currently we're going towards the inner object, we could perhaps try to go to the center. No thanks. To the center. The result is pretty much identical because our object isn't really that you know, diverse in terms of geometry. So the center is pretty much always the same, whether it's going towards the inner or to the center. It's the same. Obviously, you could go run parallel to some axes. In this situation, it's going to run. It's going to try to project along each axis and see where your stuff intersects. Or you could go to vertex normals, which is usually very good for belts and clothes and such. But because our vertex normal vertices are just like we have more normals than our wrapper object has more normals than our target object. This does not really help us. Obviously, you can go for closest, and this is the result for on closest. Not good either. So what I'm going to do is towards the inner object, and I'm going to say closest if no intersection. This means that if we don't get an intersection with the object, I'm just going to basically conform it to the object. Now this looks sort of okay, but we do have some issues, obviously. Oops. We do have some issues with our topology and with the whole setup here. It just doesn't look very good. It's just not big enough. And if we take a look here, it just looks ugly as shit because we got normals being flipped around. There's loads of errors. So in my case, I'm just gonna play around with this for a second until I get something that can just fit. All right, if it fits and it doesn't look too ugly, I can live with it. So something like this, I suppose. I don't know. Something like this. Something like this over here. Like so. I'm just trying to cover some of the problems here. I'm really not getting some huge results, but that seems sort of okay. I mean, this is very inflated onto itself. There's loads of issues with it right now, but you know, take your pick and pick your poison. Essentially, what you want to do. We can scale it down a little bit, see how it's going to fit right now. There are some issues, but I'm going to keep it like that because at the end of the day, this is not something that I'm going to be importing into a game because most definitely this is not the best way to go about this. Let's see. You can play around with these settings over here, by the way. If you so desire, you can go ahead and try to reverse the normals, the projection, or you could go both ways and Maya's going to choose which way is best. You can offset a little bit, although I really don't see why would you do that. Or you can inflate the target. It's basically one is scaling it, the other one is just pushing it away from the exclamation mark. I really can't see how this would help us. We could smooth the object a little bit, perhaps like so, and this will create a little bit of a better fit. But what we want to basically do is make sure that it doesn't look completely ridiculous. Yeah, something like that, at least on one side. Oh my god. Yeah, this does not look good at all. What if I scale this inwards a little bit? We still have a hole. Let's see, what if I scale it a little bit more? Still have a hole. A little bit more, no hole. Yeah, this looks sort of okay. I mean, there are some problems here and there, but what are you gonna do? Play around with it a little bit. Maybe I should scale it in this. Yeah, I think this is as best as I can get it without actually, you know, remaking the model or whatever, doing something fancy to it. So this is our exclamation mark. I mean, it's ugly as hell, but you got to pick your poison. Okay, so this is our object here. This is our arrow. And god damn it, I forgot to duplicate it. Okay. I forgot to duplicate it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this now as it is. And I'm going to grab my arrow and I'm going to basically go down into my attribute editor. I'm going to zero everything out. And I'm going to put the scale to 1. And I'm going to get rid of this. Where's my shrink wrap? I'm going to remove the reverse, remove the closest thing, and I'm basically going to have my arrow back, which is very nice. I'm going to snap it back to my... where's my grid? Why does it want to snap the grid? Pre-snap, thank you. And then I'm going to basically delete its history. There we go. Okay, history deleted. And I'm going to hide it because I don't need it anymore, at least for now. So we have an object here. There's our object. Notice that even though this is a, I'm going to delete that history too. I'm going to call this exclamation body. And I'm going to hide the outliner. Swap to the attribute editor. And now we have something that we can work with. I'm going to delete the history on that so that it's completely neutral. I'm going to grab my thing here and basically snap it to a vertex. And let's see which one I'm snapping to. And yeah, good luck finding the one that you need. But let's assume that this is the one that we need. Okay. So this is my arrow completely deformed and wrapped around the body of my object. However, we're lacking another thing. We're lacking this sphere. If we were to deform, by the way, one more thing, you can only blend a shape between another shape. You can't blend one shape into two shapes. At least I haven't found a way to do it. So you need to define a second shape in order for it to work. So what I'm going to do now is, again, I'm going to pop out my regular arrow. Okay, I'm going to go downwards over here, and I'm going to create a sphere. Like so. This is definitely not the sphere I want to create. Let me just say that I want it to be along the z-axis. I'm going to create this. Let's take a look what we have now right here. So this is how our exclamation mark will look. Maybe a little bit too big, so let's just scale this down a little bit like so. Something like this. There's your exclamation mark. We need this to be our final result, and we need this to be our first result. Unfortunately, like I already said, even if we combine these two, this isn't really going to do much. And because only one object at the end of the day will be transformed, in other words, you will not see this. This is just the target. We need to have this thing also duplicated. So I'm going to call this, exclamation wrap target. Now notice what we already have. We have an exclamation wrap target and an exclamation, well, I already have one, exclamation dot wrap target. There we go. Now I've got two targets. However, I only wrapped one of them. That means that I need to wrap this one to the arrow. So what I'm going to do is basically bring this down over here. Actually, I don't even need to snap it to the grid. So I'm going to select my object. I'm going to select the object. The object I'm going to wrap around, and I'm going to press shrink wrap again. Let's see what happened. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Just disappeared for some reason. So let's grab this object and see how it's going to wrap. Not too good at all. Actually, pretty bad. Let's go and take a look at our shrink wrap again and go closest, if no intersection. This looks pretty good. This looks pretty good. The idea is, right, the idea is because we need to warp into something here, and we need to probably move this down a little bit, like so. Yeah, this is way better. You don't want to be creating something like an arrow here. You want to be grabbing this from the bottom of the arrow so that it transforms into a sphere once you're done with the rest of it. Obviously, you can again play around with your little offsets and your little inflations. You could perhaps maybe smooth this once if you wanted to. I really don't see the reason for it because this is a fairly smooth sphere. We do have some errors here at the top. Maybe this is a problem. Oh no, this is from the actual arrow for some reason from the subdivision. So this is something to be looked into. If you notice here, we've got a problem during the subdivision. But, you know, don't worry about it for now because this is just an example. Obviously, you wouldn't have such an atrocious topology or that many vertices or something like that. So let's go ahead and grab my exclamation dot target. And I'm going to create another sphere, okay? Another sphere, which is going to have the exact same things. And I'm going to say that this is going to be my final result. So let's grab the sphere. By the way, delete this thing's Okay, we have some problems here. Let me just see. This isn't too good. Basically, the idea is you want to hide this thing somewhere, okay? This is not the only way to hide it, obviously, but if you want it to morph into something, that's the only way I know of. Because what's going to happen is, as this arrow morphs into our exclamation mark, so will this object that's going to be attached to the arrow morph into a dot. And our dot is going to be this. Let me just see here and create another sphere. All right, let me just make it a little bit smaller, and this is going to be my other target. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to say that this over here, the target, I perhaps should have renamed this as exclamation dot target. This is for the blend shape, okay? This is not for the wrap. And I really need to figure out what's the story here with this thing. What if I remove the closest thing possible and I just try to put it here? Still have an issue. Look, ideally you could make this completely transparent if you wanted to. All right, that's not a big problem. So in this case, we could choose whether we want this to turn into this or this to turn into that. Okay, I hope I'm not confusing you guys, but basically we got two targets right now. One of the targets are for the blend shape. The other set is for the shrink wrap. Okay, the shrink wrap is in order to achieve something where we could blend into it, whereas the shrink I'm using for our sphere here is simply because I'm trying to hide it. Okay, perhaps I should just make it small. It is possible, by the way, to just make it smaller and make it pop up, you know, on animation, which is completely fine. You know, I'm just giving you an idea of how you could do this. There's many different ways to perform the same operation. This dot here is still annoying. All right, I'm gonna grab this. I'm gonna shrink it to oblivion. There we go. How about that? Huh? How about that? Nobody's gonna see this. This is a very hack and slash type of way of doing stuff, but look, it's just an example, so don't get too worked up about it, please. All right. Okay, so now we got everything set up. We've got our exclamation wrapper. We got everything else. So now it's time to blend shape. Let's go ahead and do some blending. So I'm gonna grab my target object. And I'm gonna grab my, actually, let's one more thing, put this down at the, there we go, at the center. This is gonna go over here. Okay, again, grab the target object and then grab the thing that's gonna be morphing into that object, and go ahead and press blend shape with the check topology and click create. Notice that there's no issues right now because the topology is the same. Now if I go ahead and hide this sucker and I try to blend my shape, I can do that. Okay, that is because they have enough, they have the same topology, and Maya can calculate this easily. Notice, however, that our little ball over here is a problem because it is not like it basically is an object here that we don't want. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to essentially parent this. Okay, because this is our first bit, but we need it, once this thing is over here, we need this to turn into this. All right, so I'm going to grab this object as well, and I'm going to move it up. All right, I'm going to move this up, and I'm going to say that I want this to turn into, sorry, I want this to turn into this as time goes by. So I'm going to say a blend shape. Again, oops, sorry, my bad. Blend shape, but it's not cluster. Okay, now let's see what's happening. Blend shape, this is the output. And once I grab this, this should go into the proper position. Okay, this is nice as well. I can hide this as well. So now we've got two objects, both of which have a thingy. The only difference is that this does not move with this, and that is a problem. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead into the blend shape here. Not this blend shape, the other blend shape. Come on then, mate. I'm going to go back over here. Okay, and I'm going to combine these two objects. So let's go ahead and grab my exclamation wrap target. No, where's my, not the exclamation wrap target, the exclamation dot target, and my arrow, and I'm going to combine them. Boom, combined, same object. Okay, so now if I move this up and down, notice that this thing is still sticking under it. All right, and now if I go ahead, now I've got two blend shapes here. If I go ahead and grab one, there we go, it's moving. If I go ahead and grab the other, there we go, it's moving. The only thing left is to hook them up together so that once you get, once we basically start transforming, that our, you know, the dot follows in the footsteps. Okay, so what I'm going to do again is very simple. We're going to go into our set driven key, because again, remember, driven key is the stuff that allows us to do these things. All right, so let's go ahead and set the driven key on our exclamation body and say that this is, sorry, the exclamation, maybe I should rename this. Come on, mate. Don't play with me. So this is my dot blend, and this is my exclamation blend. Now I got two blends, so I'm gonna grab my exclamation blend, and I'm my dot blend. Sorry, jeez, I'm confusing myself, and I'm gonna say, where's the damn thing? Okay, it's not here. We gotta go into the attribute editor. Dot blend, and I'm gonna say exclamation set driven key. So there's my set driven key. The driven is the dot blend, and I need to load a driver. So the driver is very simply, if I go ahead and select my the other dot blend, select the body here, I'm gonna load the driver. So now I got both of these. I got the blend here, and I've got the target. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab my, where is it? Exclamation body. Is that my, no, that's not my target. What did I name it now? Oh, I think this is it. I think the exclamation body is the one that I checked. Let's see again. Is it? No, it's not it. We need the exclamation blend. Where is it? Dot blend. This is the dot blend. We don't need the dot blend. We need the other one. Definitely need the other one. Where is it? We need to select this now. The exclamation body. Yeah, the exclamation body. There it is. Jesus Christ. Okay, now let's go ahead and key this stuff in. So currently we've got ourselves both of these here. So if I go ahead and select this bit here, for some reason this does not want to do it. All right, okay, fine. Let's open up this here and grab the exclamation wrap target. No, where is it now? There we go. Attributes over here. We need the exclamation blend, the dot blend. That's the one what we need, and I'm gonna say load driven. So I've selected this, load driven. There we go. Jesus Christ, damn thing is so hard to find. Okay, exclamation body. I'm gonna bind this to the exclamation dot target. Right. Okay, key them together. So key at 0 here, key at 0 here, key at 0. Right, so this is our, at 0, this is the result. So I'm going to go ahead and now change this to 1. And I'm going to go ahead and change this as well to 1. And I'm going to key this again. Now, every time I change this, it's going to basically move together. Okay, because that's what set driven key does, all right? Whenever you move one thing, the other one does. The other one moves as well. The only thing is we could perhaps lift this up a little bit more. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. Now let's go ahead and grab this and see what's the story. Yeah, we need to also lift. We need to also set the freaking things over here to be not world, but local. Oh, that means that we, okay, it's gonna be easier then in this situation if I just grab my, if I just hide these for a second, unhide this, and unhide this, and I grab these two and I just move them higher up, like this, or maybe even further up, like this. This should be fine. Then I'm gonna hide them. And this is my whole final scenario, okay? So once I move this up and down, all of it is going to move up and down. Obviously, I can move this separately, but at the end of the day, you want to be moving this one. Where is it? Where'd it go? There we go. As you can see, it now works correctly. Now, the only thing left is to basically animate this sucker, all right? Obviously, you can set the key on a driven key. In other words, instead of pressing S, you can basically set the key on a driven key. So this is going to animate it, and this will be the end of this. The only thing left would be to maybe touch it up a little bit after that. So let's hide this for a second. Let's go to, let's say we want this to be done over 15 frames. 15. Okay. And I want this to be, we don't need the driven key bit anymore, and I want this to be maxed out. Boom. Okay, so frame number one, this is going to be 0. Obviously, you would ideally want a control for this and use a set driven key in order to drive this, because unfortunately, this does not pop up here. I mean, it does, but you cannot set key on it, I think. Can you? Can you key this? Oh yeah, you can key it. Well, that's very nice. So that's, you don't even need to go into the attributes. Okay, so there we go. Let's key this whole thing. Let's just set everything here. All right, and I'm going to key this as well. The exclamation blend, I'm going to key this as well. Key selected. Now we've got this keyed in. Notice the red thingy. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our number 15, and we're going to say this is going to go into 1. I'm going to set the key. And now if we play this, we're oscillating. Now this is not ideal, obviously. We do have some problems here with our animation. In other words, the transform is a little bit crap. It's kind of finicky in the sense that we do have some problems. But we can add several touches to it, okay? It is entirely possible to do that. So if we go ahead and say, all right, we go to this here, and we grab our blending bit. Sorry, to the first one, that's what we need. We don't really need this key, by the way. I'm gonna delete this key, and I'm gonna say that I only want to key in this thing at 1. Key selected. I think there's a shortcut for keying selected things. I just don't know it yet, or haven't set it up. I don't know if it's available, but let's play this again now. Okay, now that we don't have a positioning, it's much, much better. Now, it is entirely possible to do this in a little bit of a different fashion. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab this and I'm going to move it over. Come on, Mike. I'm going to move it over to frame number 5. All right. So if we play this now, this is much faster. Okay. Now this is very simple, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this frame number 1, and I'm going to say, okay, go into vertex mode from the front view here. Focus on this vertex. Well, maybe this whole like this vertex, and I'm going to soft select this thing. It is huge, by the way, so I need to make this, oops, I need to make this smaller, ridiculously big, like this, maybe a little bit smaller, something like this, and I'm going to move this stuff down. The fall off is crap, oops, something like this perhaps, or not, I don't know. Let's grab these two then. Maybe this is going to be much better. Yeah, something like that. Or you could always completely just turn off the soft select and grab these three or however many, and you can just push them down. Or all of these three and push them down. Squeeze them in. Push them down. This is too much of a hassle when it comes to when I have too many vertices. I think it was possible to select the fall off on soft select, by the way, so let's just see what's going to happen if I go ahead into tool options and under soft selection say that my fall off radius is, oh wait, this is my fall off radius. The strength of the fall off though is entirely different story. It's too big. I need to check maybe linear. Linear will be interesting. Maybe this is going to work out just fine for us. Yeah, this is a little bit better. So if I go ahead and select these three, for example, this will get it in a little bit of a tight spot. There we go. So now I'm going to set the key on that. Okay. Actually, yeah, there we go. Now I'm going to turn off the soft select, get rid of it. So let's see what we've got now. Yeah, this works a little bit better, I suppose. Yeah. Go into vertex again. Drop this a little bit further. Actually, I'm going to drop this whole thing down. Like so. Like so. Key this in as well. No, this was bad. Like so. And then like so. This is our frame number 1. Key this in, and then at frame number 5, that's when we're going to be lifting upwards. I'm going to go ahead and select this thing again and just restore it, sort of. Like this. Set the key. And now we can go ahead and see what we've done. Obviously nothing fancy, but that's because we haven't added a deformer. And that's what we're going to do as well. Now, this is obviously creating some problems because I'm overlapping things, as you can see here. There's just too much geometry, and I was completely ignoring topology for this. Obviously, you need to be a little bit more restrictive when it comes to all these things packed together tightly. Not to mention that vertex changes are going to be creating problems as the time goes by, because some of these vertices are, especially because our selection here was so much different. As you can see, these vertices are completely screwed. I mean, you could try ahead and try to have some symmetry here and maybe grab these vertices and move them down, but this is going to create some other issues. So I would just leave it as it is for now, because it doesn't matter for this in this case. So just leave it as it is. Obviously, if you want to be super good, please go ahead and do that. In my case, I can't be bothered right now. Okay, the last thing we need to do here is to add, because by the way, I should have probably done this before I subdivided. But now I'm going to add a deformer, another deformer, just to create a little bit more of a little bit more fluid situation here. And this deformer is going to be called a nonlinear squash deformer. Even with the settings, going to pop it up. Actually, I'm going to create this as it is. I'm going to open up my thingy here. I'm going to rotate this by 90 degrees, like so. And this seems to be fitting it just fine. Now I'm going to press T to get my thingy. I'm just going to squash this a little bit. Wait, did I tie this? It should have a squash input. Yes, factor of 1, I suppose. 2. The story is here now. Did I forget how to use this damn thing? I think I didn't select the correct. Yeah, I think I did. I forgot to select the geometry. So no. So let's go back into Deformers and basically do the same thing again. I'm gonna say I want to squash this thing. Okay, now this, I think this is gonna bite this time around. Okay, we've got this. Go into attributes, inputs, squash. For some, oh, there we go. I couldn't move the factor for some reason. All right, so what we want to do now is to maybe reduce the envelope a little bit, and we just want to be squashing it from top to bottom. So we want this to be squashed like that over here. Move this down a little bit. I meant our geometry. We want to move it down. The whole thing, move it down. Jesus Christ, what the hell? Come on, boy. Here we go. There's our geometry. Move this upwards a little bit so we can get the full thing. Maybe I should just parent this sucker. Okay, this is sort of squashed. Maybe I should reduce the expansion a little bit, like so. And the envelope maybe by a little bit, just a little bit. Just a little bit. There we go. 0.9. Okay. So this is going to be our first set here, and I'm going to press the set key again. Let's see what's going on, by the way, here. See, because our deformer is not keyframed in, this does not really change much. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my object now. I'm going to go back to frame 1. Others are not needed. And I'm going to say I want to squash this even more. Something like this. Yeah, this is a little bit better. Move this down and move this thing down. Like so. This is sort of all right. This is a little bit extreme probably, so maybe I shouldn't be squashing it that much. Yeah, sort of something like that. That's the weird bit. I don't understand. This shouldn't be happening. I mean, I should be able to move both of them. Maybe I just haven't been using this in a while. Okay, now I'm gonna key this in, and I'm gonna say that on the frame number 5, this is all gonna be a joke. So envelope 100, factor is 0. All right, and it's gonna be a little bit higher up, like so. And I'm gonna say, okay, awesome. Set the key here at frame number 5. Actually, wait, no, not on frame number 5. Yeah, frame number 5. So let's see what's going on now. Very little squash, not enough, I don't like it. Let's go ahead and squash this more. There we go. Set the key. Play. There we go. Oh, Jesus, I've been setting the key on the wrong goddamn thing. My bad, guys. You gotta set the key on the deformer, not on the object. It's my bad. So this looks sort of alright at this point. I mean, this obviously does not look super good, but it is like it could be worse. Notice one thing, by the way. I just want to make sure that you understand this. Notice that if we select our object, okay, I want you to take a look that the animation goes from frame 1 to frame 15. Just because I'm oscillating back and forth does not mean that if I export this animation right now, it's going to be jumping up and down. If I export this into Unreal right now, I mean, ignoring the fact that we got 40,000 vertices on a freaking like arrow, this is the animation that I'm going to get. Okay, now obviously I can reverse it in Unreal, but in general, when you got looping animations, you'd probably be better off having it looped as you export. Okay. Anyway, guys, that's it from me. I just wanted to show you the possibilities and the options that you've got. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Obviously, you can create many different deformers. You can go look at how many deformers you've got, man. I mean, you've got your, where is it? I thought I popped it off. you've got your little lattices, right? You can use a lattice. You can use the shrink wrap. Even I think you can even animate the shrink wrap. I'm not too sure about that. Haven't tried that bit because obviously, it's very situational. All the nonlinears, they work perfectly. The soft modification is I never used that one for animating. The point on curve is nice, I suppose. So you could deform based on that. But the rest of this is obviously these are edits such as mirroring weights and membership tool settings, such as like you can edit the shrink wrap, for example. You can remove objects or add them. These are all settings that I believe we went through when I went through the deformers. Did I go through deformers with you guys? I think I did. I'm pretty sure I did. But you can paint the weights even on nonlinear deformers here, so it's completely fine for you to, if you don't like a particular bit being connected to the deformer, you could just deconnect it, or you can edit the membership tool on particular things such as the lattice, for example. Okay, so I'm going to save this thing, and notice how many objects we used for this operation. Now we have the morph, right? This is our original object, and if we go ahead and open the outliner, we got a bunch of others that are currently hidden. So I'm going to unhide them, and I'm going to add them to the morphs, so that we can hide the whole damn thing. That's awesome. And obviously I should probably go ahead and rename this as my one and only, where is it? My arrow. So this is the arrow, finally. Notice, by the way, that this arrow here is also available, but this is just a transformer. If I delete this now, nothing's. Oh wait, whoa, why? Oh yeah, because I still have history attached to it. Yeah, in reality, I'd have to delete the history so that this doesn't happen. But just keep it as it is, because right now, if you delete let's see if I delete the non-deformer history, what's gonna happen? Delete non-deformer history, and if I delete this now, no, still no go. What if I parent it to the world? What's gonna happen now? Oh, I see. Yeah, because you've got different deformers still. Well, that's a pity, but you got to do what you got to do. Sometimes you have this clutter. Sometimes it's just due to bad workflow, in which case this is probably a result of a very bad workflow, because I basically cobbled this together in about an hour or so. However, you can see that your options are really, like, you really got a lot of options when it comes to these things. I probably shouldn't have the wireframe on as well for this, but whatever. It's completely fine. Let's just play this animation again so that you can see what we've done. Now this is, look, if this was not such a topological disaster, okay, this would have been perfectly serviceable for, like, if you speed this up, maybe not 15 frames but 10 frames, and I'm going to talk about it in the graph editor and the time editor. Using the same animation, by the way, to tweak it around, but it is perfectly serviceable for like a game or somewhere you can put it on. Obviously, this just looks disastrous to me, but still. Anyway, you guys play around with these deformers. Tell me what you think in the comments. Well, don't tell me because I'm not going to read them, but figure it out on your own. Okay. Try to recreate what I've just done. Maybe get better results. You probably will. Given enough time, you will get better results than I have here. You'll probably actually discover that I've probably done some stupid things as well, such as, the whole shrink wrapping a sphere onto a freaking arrow so that I can unwrap it later through a blend shape. I mean, a bunch of stupid things that I didn't really need to set a key, to set a driven key in this situation, because I could have just set a key on the scale of a sphere, have it on scale on a scale of 0, right, in the right position, and just keyframe the position. Loads of possibilities. The only thing important is that the final result is not a disaster, and in this situation it is. So this is definitely easy to delete. However, I'm not gonna do that, because in the next video we'll be talking about these editors over here, and for that we need an animation graph. In other words, we need an actual clip in order to talk about this. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time, and after that we'll probably go through the visualize bit. I still don't know what to use for visualize bit. Ideally you want to have a skeleton for that, but I don't know. We'll see. By the way, the constraint bit, we can also go through that for motion paths. because the motion paths are essentially, look, I don't know if I'll go over them, but basically a motion path is you create a curve, let's say something like that, and then you attach this object to the curve, and it's going to move on this curve, so you can animate it very easily. If you have something that's taken over or taken off, like a plane, or if you got some comet, some trajectory that you have to follow specifically, then the curve is your best bet. Now, I'll probably skip that because honestly, I don't feel like making a rig for you guys, just that you can see how to create a curve or a plane or something like that. But if I come up with an idea, I will show you. Okay? Right. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.